everybody, it's Paige, and today's video is going to be all about Jeffree Star Cosmetics eyeshadow palettes. I got a comment on one of my videos on January 12th, and I took a screenshot of it. It's from someone named Maria, and they said, do a video where you rank Jeffree palettes. That would be fun. And then I responded saying that I loved that idea, so that is what I'm doing today. I have all of my Jeffree Star Cosmetics eyeshadow palettes sitting in front of me. I have them all ranked from least favorite to favorite, and I'm going to be going through all of them with you guys and giving you my reasoning behind my ranking. I will not be including the Jeffree Star and Morphe collaboration palette in this ranking just because this isn't a Jeffree Star Cosmetics product. This is a collab with Jeffree Star himself. I do really love this palette. I've gotten some really good use out of it. I think this is a beautiful palette, but like I said, I'm not including it in today's ranking. I do own every single Jeffree Star Cosmetics eyeshadow palette that has ever come out, so I have all 10 of them sitting here in front of me. I also want to quickly mention a couple of makeup details. I will have an Instagram post with all of the details listed, but a couple of things I wanted to mention are that I'm wearing the Omrizi and Anastasia Beverly Hills eyeshadow palette again, and I love it. I did a review on this. It will be linked down below. I used a lot of the more neutral shades this time, and then this blue shade here called Leo, and I think that it turned out so pretty. I also have D-Star lashes in the style Camilla on, and then my lip combo is the KKW Beauty lip liner in the shade Nude 1 with the Laura Lee Los Angeles liquid lipstick in the shade Nakey Nakey. I think this is a gorgeous nude lip color. I really like the formula, and this is like not a pinky nude and it's not like an orangey nude. Like, it's a neutral nude, and I'm so obsessed. So I really have been loving this liquid lipstick and like putting it on top of darker ones. I just think it's amazing, and I like can't believe that I'm just now like starting to use this. So anyway, if you are new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy, and let's go ahead and get started. I did see someone do this video already, and I will link her video down below. I'm not sure if she's the initial person to do this video or not. I think her YouTube name was Porcelain, so I will link her video down below. That's the only other video I've seen like this, so if this is like a thing already, like, I just want to say I didn't come up with this idea, and I want to make sure that whoever did come up with this idea gets proper credit. So yeah, don't know whose original idea this was, but like I said, someone left the comment, and then later on I saw someone with the name Porcelain posted this similar video. I didn't get a chance to watch the video yet, but I definitely will when I do have time. So anyway, we're gonna start off with number 10. This is my least favorite Jeffree Star Cosmetics eyeshadow palette. As you guys know, I love Jeffree Star Cosmetics. I'm a huge fan. I have been for years now. I basically collect Jeffree Star Cosmetics. I freaking love it so much. I can't express that enough. So anyway, number 10, I have the Beauty Killer eyeshadow palette. This is the first eyeshadow palette that Jeffree Star Cosmetics released. I remember when this released, I was so excited. I did get this right when it released, and I was like, holy crap, this is a crazy colorful eyeshadow palette. At the time, I gotta say, I must have been maybe a freshman in college. I had started my beauty YouTube channel, but it was more of like a secret passion of mine. Like, I didn't tell anybody about it. I was like really into makeup, but I just didn't ever do anything crazy. So to me, this was crazy. And now when I look at this, it's kind of like bland and not boring, but like, I don't know. I just don't really get too much inspiration when I look at this palette anymore, but it was an amazing palette. It was iconic. All of his eyeshadow palettes are iconic, but I don't know. I still really do like this palette. I loved the shades Princess and Courtney and China White especially. Those were like go-to shades. I actually, a long time ago, I filmed a full face of Jeffree Star Cosmetics Beauty Killer palette, so I used this palette for my entire face of makeup. It's probably really embarrassing, so I don't know that I recommend go watching it, but I will link it down below if you're interested. So I will go ahead and swatch some of the shades from each palette just so you guys can see. We'll swatch Star Power. This is like the hot pink shade. This one is called Rich, B-I-T-C-H, and then we'll go ahead and do Courtney. Here are some of the swatches from the Beauty Killer palette. My lighting is being a little funky, so hopefully you guys can see those. I think they're really beautiful shadows. These two here are mattes. The mattes are a little bit and the metallics honestly feel a little bit dry. I don't know if that's just because this palette is so old or if his formula has really changed that much, but either way, I think this is a beautiful palette. It's definitely a collector's piece, and I definitely loved this and like was obsessed with it at a point in time in my life, just not so much anymore, which is why I decided to place this at number 10. For number 9, I decided to pick the Alien palette from Jeffree Star Cosmetics. I gotta say, I love the packaging of this palette. I think that it's so unique and fun. The eyes are like three-dimensional. The shape of the palette is so freaking cool. I love this. This is some crazy creativity here, and I think it's so fun. It's obviously not super practical for storing it and things like that, but I have a whole makeup room dedicated to storing my makeup, so it's like not a big deal to me. But I love the idea and concept of this palette, and the packaging is to die for. The color scheme, however, isn't my absolute favorite. This is what it looks like. It's a very cool toned palette, very like gray and green overall, which I typically don't use a lot of cool toned shadows, especially not like grays and taupes and things like that. I prefer like a warm, like orangey bronzy kind of eye over, or like pink or something like that, over like a gray taupey kind of vibe, which I know like taupey eyeshadows are coming back around in style. Not that they were ever really out, but I feel like they're a little trendier right now, so maybe I'll reach into this palette some more. When I initially reviewed this, I had some trouble with the shade Flying Saucer and Area 51. They are pressed pigments, so I think that's why, and I think I had too wet of a base when I went in with them. But either way, I love this palette. I have used it quite a bit, especially these more like neutral, like transition crease shades, but it's just not something that I reach for a whole lot because it's so like dark and gray. So the color scheme is what really set this one a little bit lower for me. However, I think the color scheme is completely on point for the theme. It's just not something I personally prefer. The palette that I have in 8th place is the Mini Breaker palette. This may come as a shock to some of you guys. I personally think the Jawbreaker collection is one of the best launches from Jeffree Star Cosmetics ever. I love the whole theme of it. I love the products, everything about it. The reason I'm putting this in 8th place is just because of the lack of wearability. For one thing, it's very like orange and purple, which I love orange eyeshadow, I love purple eyeshadow. I just find that I can't get a complete look from this palette. Like I'm always having to reach for other palettes, like a lighter highlighting shade or a lighter like more neutral transition shade or something like that. I just never feel like I can get a complete look from this palette unless I'm going like absolutely like colorful and out there, which sometimes I am going for that. I think that the formula of this palette is absolutely stunning, and these eyeshadows are beautiful. I just don't typically want to reach for this all the time because I know I'm gonna have to like figure out what other palettes I can use with this one as like a companion palette, because I don't find myself getting a complete look from this. But the shadows are beautiful. I will go ahead and swatch some. I realized I didn't swatch any from the Alien palette, so I'll do that in just a second as well. But first, I'm gonna go ahead and do this one. Here are the swatches from the Mini Breaker palette. So beautiful and pigmented and creamy and buttery, as are all of Jeffree Star's eyeshadows. I really do think these are gorgeous shades, like I said, but this guy is in 8th place. Going back to the swatches in the Alien palette, these are absolutely stunning. This top shade right here is so creamy and soft and buttery and pigmented. That's the shade Martian Soil. I'm like shocked by this shade right here. Also, this one is called UFO. That is stunning. This one was Flying Saucer, and then this bottom one was Space Cowboy. I definitely need to go back into this palette as soon as possible and play around with some of these shades because I feel like I could be missing out. In 7th place, I have the Jeffree Star Cosmetics Androgyny palette. This was his 2nd palette launch, and when he announced the release of this palette, he said that it was his version of a neutral eyeshadow palette, and I did not know what to expect from that statement, but I knew not to expect neutral. So here is what the Androgyny palette looks like. I just had to put in a new camera battery, so I'm sorry if the frame changed a little bit, but we were talking about the Androgyny palette. I think this is a gorgeous palette, especially this top row here. I love the warm tones. I love that this is almost like a monochromatic moment, like if you cover up this bottom half, and then the bottom has some fun pops of color, which I really don't reach for these colors very often at all. I never really did. The only one that I will say I reached for a bit was the shade Androgyny, which is this really pretty kind of like mauve-y, purpley, kind of grape-ish kind of shade. I said kind of so many times in that sentence, but These shadows are super pigmented. I love the shade Safe Word. That was like my go-to, this one right here. My go-to transition shade for a while. You don't really hear people use the term transition shade anymore, I feel like. Like it's always like a crease shade. I don't know, I just feel like transition shade was like a thing of like 2012. But these shadows swatch so beautifully, and those top three are matte, and then this bottom one is a metallic. And overall, I just really do enjoy this palette. I don't reach for it a whole lot anymore just because there's been so much like new and exciting products from every brand, including Jeffree Star Cosmetics. But I definitely still think that this is an amazing palette, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone. The palette that I have in 6th place is the Mini Controversy palette. This was a major talking point of 2019 because of the whole Jeffree Star and Shane Dawson collaboration. I do really enjoy this palette. However, it's not in my top because of the color scheme. I think that this is a really fun and unique color scheme. I did a video, 2 looks 1 palette, with this guy right here. I will link it down below if you're looking for some inspiration. But I really do think you can achieve a lot with this palette, but it's just not really personally something that I really gravitate towards. There's a lot of really light shades going on, like this whole top row and then this one here, and then other than that you have like some purpley blues, and then this shade gave me some trouble actually in that initial 2 looks 1 palette video that I did, but then also after that I still have had some issues with patchiness and fallout with this guy right here. But I mean, it's still a really nice palette overall. I will swatch these for you. Mine unfortunately broke. I'm not sure if you can tell, but I dropped it, and then a lot of the shadow here like cracked and fell out, which was so sad, but it's fine. So I'll go ahead and swatch a couple shades. Here are the swatches. The swatch of the shade here, My Apology, this is the one that gave me some trouble, is beautiful. Like, holy crap, that is stunning. Overall, love the palette. Like I said, it's just, there's something about the color scheme that doesn't like scream my name. But I mean, I'm sure if there was like a pink popped in there or like a bright like corally shade, I feel like I would like it a lot more. But I love the palette. I love how much hard work Jeffree and Shane put into this palette, and it's still one of my favorite palettes ever. I want to mention 2 things really fast. The first is that Andrea Mattiano is a YouTuber, and she does a lot of these ranking kind of videos. So if you really enjoy this style video, I highly recommend going and checking her out. I don't think she talks about Jeffree Star Cosmetics on her channel, but she is a cruelty-free channel and she does lots of really fun videos. I love her so much. I watch every single one of her videos. And when I saw the comment suggesting that I do this, I immediately thought of her. So I highly recommend you go check her out if you don't or haven't already. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention is this candle back here. This is the Lavender Vanilla candle. Lavender Marshmallow candle from Bath & Body Works. I had some people ask me what my thoughts are of this candle, and I gotta say I personally love the candle, but it is so sweet. So if you don't like sweet scents, you're not gonna like it. My friend Alicia actually bought this and tried it out. She wasn't a fan of it, so she ended up giving it to me, and I freaking love it. So just wanted to mention those 2 things really fast while I was thinking about them. Moving on to 5th place, we've got the Blue Blood palette. This palette caused a lot of talk. A lot of people either hated this palette or loved it. They hated the idea of it or they loved it. And I personally loved it. I don't really wear a lot of blue eyeshadow, as I'm wearing blue eyeshadow. But I really didn't wear blue eyeshadow prior to having this palette. But now I've definitely ventured out a lot more and I love blue eyeshadow now. So I think this is a beautiful palette. I think that you can definitely still get a neutral look from the palette if you stick to the more like warm, like peachier kind of shades. But overall, I think this is a gorgeous palette. I love the packaging, and I don't know, I just think it's so fun. I do have a little bit of a gripe with this palette just because of my initial review. I did pay $40 for expedited shipping, and I didn't end up getting this palette until like 2 weeks later or something crazy like that, and it was after people who had free shipping got their palettes. So I was a little upset about that. I really do think that Jeffree Star Cosmetics could use a lot of fixing in their shipping department, just because I've experienced so many issues with the shipping from their website. I always shop from Beautylish if I can. Shipping is so much faster. The website nearly never crashes. I heard it crashed during the Shane and Jeffree collab launch, but a lot of people were able to get it through that website based on my recommendation. I'm so happy about that. I just think Beautylish is the way to go because it's so fast and you get free shipping over $35 as opposed to over $100, and you're gonna need it so much faster. So anyway, I really do enjoy this palette. I think the formula is amazing, and yeah, it's so fun. It's definitely not a palette for everyone though, because if you're not gonna wear blue eyeshadow, don't buy this palette. Like, just don't do it because you're gonna hate it. Here are some swatches of the palette from top to bottom. We had Ocean Ice, Blue Blood, Crystal Flesh, and then Mint Tea. I think this is such a fun palette. It kind of reminds me of like a prequel to the ColourPop monochromatic blue eyeshadow palette. I actually don't have that eyeshadow palette, but I don't know, this palette just, it's not completely monochromatic, but like it's a blue palette, you know what I'm saying? So it kind of gives me that kind of vibe, but this definitely predates the ColourPop one. In fourth place, I have the Blood Sugar palette. This was a palette that I tried to purchase immediately when it launched, and then I ended up missing it because it sold out within like 4 minutes, and I was crushed. I was crushed because it was like one of those things where a lot of other things in my life were going wrong, and then I didn't get the new JEFFREE palette when it launched, so it just kind of like made it so much worse for me. But I did end up getting it on the second launch and everything worked out fine. I think this is a stunning palette. The packaging is so cool. This was his first like boxed palette, and I still have issues opening mine. Like, it still is like hard to open. Like, I thought it would get easier over time, but I don't know, it's still kind of difficult to open. But anyway, this is what the palette looks like. This is a gorgeous palette. I actually just used this in a full face of makeup I forgot about video. I will link it down below. I'm gonna have so many things linked down below, but I think this is such a fun palette. It's gorgeous, and yeah, I love the formula. I'm trying to think about what other things I could say about it. I definitely am more of a warm eyeshadow palette kind of person, which is why I ranked this one above the Blue Blood palette. But also, this is definitely a lot more diverse. Like, this whole top row is neutrals. There's really not a ton of like red shades in this palette. If you change the background of this palette to like a white or a black, you would see it's not as colorful of a palette as you may think. I've seen somebody do that on Instagram where they change the packaging color and then it completely changes the look of the palette. It's so much less intimidating without this red packaging, but I personally like the red packaging because it's like, I don't know, it's so fun. And I love the like medical theme that this has to it. So I'll go ahead and swatch some shades for you. Here are the swatches of the shadows. That top shade swatched kind of patchy, so I did go back over it. That's the shade Prick. Then we have the shade Tongue Pop. Then we have the shade Root Canal, and then Blood Sugar. So yeah, overall I think this is a gorgeous palette. I feel like some of his pressed pigment shades don't really swatch as good as some of his regular eyeshadows do, and I do believe Prick is a pressed pigment, but I could be wrong. But yeah, overall I think this is a stunning palette, and I definitely will be reaching for this so much more, especially since doing my full face of makeup I forgot about video. Now we're down to the top 3, and this is where it gets really hard for me. These 3 palettes I feel like are so amazing, and I love every single one of them, but if I had to rank them, this is the order that I would rank them in. So in third place, I have the Jawbreaker palette. This is such a fun palette. Like I said, obviously I love the collection. The layout of this palette is stunning. I think this is one of the prettiest palettes in the entire world to look at. Like, not just Jeffree Star Cosmetics palettes, but just like palettes in general. I love looking at this palette. The colors are so fun and beautiful. Like, all these kind of like pastel, like bright pastel shadows just like scream my name. Like this green, this coral, this lavender, this pink, like this blue, this yellow, this green. I just love it all so much. I think this is a gorgeous palette, and I really don't use this one all that often, and I don't know why. I kind of feel like I just forget about it. So I definitely need to reach for this palette more very, very soon. Here are the swatches from the palette. Like, I just feel like the quality of these shadows is beyond any other. So from top to bottom we have Gumdrop, then that second one is a bad word that starts with an F. I'm sure you can figure out the rest. The third one is called Orange Juice, and then the bottom one is called Cotton Candy. So yeah, stunning palette. I definitely need to start using this some more because it's freaking bomb. Like the color scheme and color story and the quality. The last two palettes I love so much with all of my heart, and it's really stressing me out, the fact that I have to pick a favorite over the other. And I mean, it's just makeup Paige, like chill. If I had to pick a second place palette, I think I'm gonna have to go with the Thirsty palette from Jeffree Star Cosmetics. This palette I just heard was discontinued and I am crushed. I'm so upset, I'm so sad. Like, I wish I had some warning because I would have purchased a backup. This is what the Thirsty palette looks like. This was from one of his summer launches. It was the summer before Jawbreaker. I love this palette. I love this palette. I love the warm tones in the top row. I love the pops of color on the bottom. But this middle row here, just like, there's something about it. He used a new formula that was different, and it couldn't be embossed with his like imprint logo. So none of the middle row had an imprint, and I thought that was interesting at first. I was like, okay, like, okay, but like, holy crap, you guys, this is a gorgeous palette. I don't even know, like, I love. Jarvis actually used this palette in My Boyfriend Does My Makeup video. It will be linked down below. That was probably the funniest video I have ever posted, ever, and it was probably the funnest to film in my entire life. So yeah, anyway, this middle row is so freaking cool. It's like metallic, like, so freaking cool. And then there's also these ones that have like legit glitter in them. We'll swatch Taste Buds, and then we'll go in with Quench. Here are swatches from the Thirsty palette. I feel like my swatches, especially these bottom two, look kind of funky because my hand is starting to get stained a bit, but from top to bottom we have Divine, then we have Plunge, Taste Buds, and Quench. This is such a fun palette, and if you have this, consider yourself lucky. I really wish that I had known that he was discontinuing this, because then I literally would have purchased a backup because it's such a good palette. So that just leaves one palette that could possibly be in first place, and I know it might be like cliche of me to pick this one, but the Conspiracy palette is my favorite Jeffree Star Cosmetics palette to ever launch, and I gotta say a lot of that may be because it's a Shane Dawson and Jeffree collab, and there was a lot of hype and anticipation around this product, but the actual product itself is so incredible and I love everything about it. Like, there's nothing that I would change about it. The packaging is so cool. I feel like a special connection through watching the docu-series, and just like when I'm trying to like, okay, this way. When I hold this palette, it makes me smile. Every time I look at it, it just like, it inspires me. It gives me so much joy, and it's just so fun like thinking back to the series and like having that connection with this palette. But I really do think this is his best quality palette, and also the color scheme is so unique and fun, and there's so much you can do with this palette. I filmed quite a few videos with this palette. I did my initial review. I did a 2 looks 1 palette with it, I believe, and then I also did a video where I used every single shade from this palette on my eyes in one go. So yeah, I think this is such a gorgeous palette, and obviously congratulations to Shane and Jeffree. I know this is kind of like old news now. It seems these days in the makeup community, like a week is considered old news, but I love this palette with all of my heart. It's so freaking good, and I will be purchasing a backup when it comes back in stock, because I do not think that it is in stock right now. So anyway, that was my ranking all of my Jeffree Star Cosmetics eyeshadow palettes. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please don't forget to subscribe and give it a thumbs up. If you guys like this style video, please let me know down below. I'm actually planning on filming another one right after this one, so that one should be up on my channel fairly soon after you see this video. But yeah. Anyway, I love you guys so much. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.